If you receive an email from eBay encouraging you to issue a refund to a buyer because the buyer opened a case against you stating that they have not yet received their package yet because of issues completely beyond your control with the post office or another carrier, do not issue the refund until you watch this video, because the information that eBay is initially sending out to sellers is completely misleading. And it's costing sellers a lot of money and unfortunately continuing to contribute to the perception out there that eBay just doesn't have sellers' backs, despite many things that they have done recently that is positive about protecting sellers. This type of thing just really takes things back in a wrong direction, and it needs to be fixed, because while the context of the example that I'm going to show you is over the Christmas season of 2020, this applies at any point during the year in which a buyer might open a case like this against a seller. It's going to remain this way until eBay fixes it. So let me share my screen with you, and I will take you into the eBay Twilight Zone. Here we go. I'm going to share the screen with you. Now, this is the generic message that eBay sends out to its sellers when a buyer opens a case like the one that I described. And I know it's big. I just wanted to show you the screenshot of it. I'm going to break it down into two parts here to show you. Now, this is not something that happened to me. This is something that happened to a close friend of mine, a fellow reseller who sent me these screenshots. So let me start here. So up top, you see that it says, resolve this request to remain in good standing. It not only says it once in the subject, but it then says it in the first sentence of the body of the message that you get. And it says your buyer is still waiting for their item. Now, not only does it say it a second time, but it also gives you a date. Look at that date, January 1st, 2021. Well, look at the date up top, December 31st. That's 2020. So you're giving the seller 1 day or less to respond to this request. Now, let's take out for a second that it's the holiday season where people are traveling and not every buyer is checking their messages, especially not to the degree that a seller would check it around this time of year. You're only going to give the person 1 day to respond? 1 day? So anytime during the year, that is not sufficient. Now, I want to emphasize these words here where it says, remain in good standing. Every eBay seller knows that that is really one of the things that you are mostly focused on. You want to remain in good standing. You don't want your seller rating to go down. You don't want to get negative feedback, because if you do, you know that that's something that can affect your sales and it could affect your visibility in search. So you really try to do everything possible to avoid that. And if you get an official message from eBay, the pressure is now on and they're not giving you enough time to make a decision. So that's problem number one. But let's go to the next part. It says your buyer's request is still open because there hasn't arrived. They can't even get the grammar right in the second sentence of the message. It's supposed to say because their item hasn't arrived or because their package hasn't arrived. Come on. This is going out to, all of these sellers. And, I shouldn't have to be the one who points this out on a YouTube video. I mean, come on. Someone's got to be vetting this type of stuff. But anyway, says, please work with your buyer to find a solution by January 1st, 2021, or we may be asked to step in and help, or we may be asked to step in and help. Ooh, that sounds bad, right? I mean, that sounds threatening. Like, eBay, we're going to come in and we're going to step in, right? That does not sound good. That sounds intimidating to a seller. Let's go to the next sentence. Addressing your buyer's request will help maintain your seller level, and you'll increase your chances of getting positive feedback. Well, that sounds kind of nice, right? But actually, let's just flip around what they're saying. Let's just change the words around. Okay, what if you don't do that? What if you don't address your buyer's request under the time pressure of one day? What if you don't do that? Well, obviously, it must be the opposite of what you're saying, because you're saying if I do address it, that'll increase the chance of getting a positive feedback. So logic dictates if I don't do that, that I decrease the chance of getting a positive feedback, which also means that I increase the chance of getting a neutral, or I increase the chance of getting a negative feedback. And that's really getting very close to, if not it is, let me know in the comments what you think. This actually sounds to me very, very close to feedback extortion from eBay against its own sellers. How ironic is that? Because that's what feedback extortion is. It's not just mentioning that you could get a negative feedback or something tied to something related to feedback. It's saying that there's a certain action that has to occur that is then linked to that feedback. If you don't do X, then you'll get a negative feedback or a neutral feedback. That's feedback extortion. So that is another problem in terms of the messaging. The way this is getting presented to sellers should never happen. If you haven't already, provide your buyer with tracking info and request additional details if necessary. If you refund the buyer, we'll credit the variable portion of the final value fee. Respond now. So the way everything is set up in the context, with the time pressure, with the messages to remain in good standing, you don't know if the person's going to respond to you or not. What do you think the average seller is going to do, and what eBay knows the average seller is going to do in this situation? Anyone want to take a guess? Want to take a guess? Well, I'll show you what the seller did in this situation. The seller issued a refund. Now, do I blame the seller for issuing a refund? Absolutely not, because based on what was sent to them, that's a logical course of action, especially if you're trying to protect your account. But wait until you see what happens when the same seller who then issued the refund, who, by the way, has been on eBay for the longest time selling, it's a very good reputation, then approaches eBay to try to get their money back. Okay, here, this is word for word the message from the seller. I had a brand new zero feedback buyer file an item not received claim. So as I say, this gets even crazier, because we're dealing with a very experienced seller going up against a zero feedback buyer, not a one feedback buyer, not a two feedback buyer, a zero feedback buyer. Yet the seller gets these kind of messages sent to them in this situation. There's no differentiation. Okay. Now I get it. You want the buyer to have a good first experience, but at the same time, there's got to be a better way to do this, especially when we're dealing with an experienced seller and a situation, as the seller explains here, it's completely out of their control. Now it gets even worse. This is not only a refund of one item, as the seller says here, I had to refund her for two items. This was mailed in time and delayed due to post office delays. This is very well established about what happened during the Christmas season of 2020. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, delays could happen anytime during the year, but we had the pandemic and we had staffing shortages and, sorting machines being taken out of the post office even earlier in the year. It was crazy. The people were waiting for packages for 4 to 5 weeks. It was a known thing. eBay knew it. And still, despite that, sending these things out to sellers, pressuring them to issue a refund within a day. Okay. So now here it gets even worse, because after the seller issues the refund, the buyer gets their items. Well, that's great for the buyer, right? What a great experience for the buyer. Buyer just got free stuff on eBay. That's what happened. Okay. How is that right? How is that right? It's not right in any way. There needs to be a way that eBay backs sellers, just like Poshmark backs their sellers if they use their system to send out their items. They back them fully. There needs to be a way that eBay is backing its sellers in this kind of situation. Because I run a Facebook group with 23,500 members in it. It's the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, if you're not familiar with it. I've heard story after story of people who have lost money. They've just been giving away items to buyers like Santa Claus, which should never happen. So can you please reimburse me the full amount that I had to refund to her beyond my control, below all the items and info? Thank you. Which I'm not going to present here what the items were. It's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. This is the main point of what's here. Now, if you think that's just crazy in terms of the situation, we're really going to go into the twilight zone. I mean, really hold on to your seats, folks. I mean, really get a seatbelt on. All right, I'm putting mine on right now. I'm gonna get a seatbelt on. Let's see. I don't really have. Maybe I'm gonna use a bubble wrap seatbelt. All right, I'm gonna bubble wrap myself into the chair here for this, because this is so crazy that I don't want to fall out of it this time. All right, I'm in. All right, ready? So we're gonna get into. Here's our eBay representative right here. Got my seatbelt on. So she says, "Thanks for those details. It looks like you issued the refund voluntarily. So I don't have a way to submit an appeal to help you out." Oh, really? The person issued the refund voluntarily? Well, I wonder why that would have happened. Let's go back here. Wonder why that would happen. Voluntarily. Gee, you basically threatened me to knock out my good standing. And you also basically said that read between the lines, that I could get a neutral or negative feedback in this kind of situation. Voluntarily. Now that voids the appeal. Why does that void the appeal, eBay? Why does that void the appeal? However, you can send a message with the buyer to work out a repayment, since they won't be able to submit a second payment through our system, which is another problem. They should be able to. Why can't that happen? Why can't there be a mechanism for that? So that's another point I just want to mention as an aside, because I've heard people mention and trying to resolve this. I just dealt with this yesterday in my Facebook group. When someone is trying to do a post-transaction resolution on eBay, you can absolutely, communicate with regards to PayPal information to get reimbursed. That can happen. You can't go outside of eBay for the initial transaction. That's where you could get in trouble and lose your account, but not for a post-transaction resolution. They're telling you right here that that is allowed. That's permitted. But here's the problem with this, okay? What mechanism do you have as a seller to get that buyer to send you the money? You know what mechanism you have for that? Zero. You have zero mechanisms to do that. And eBay knows that. So eBay's basically just wiping their hands clean of the situation. Gee, sorry, you refunded voluntarily, so now I can't help you. But, you could go, try to communicate. Basically, good luck to you. Good luck to you. That's great. That's the message you send out to an experienced seller. Again, somebody who just bought on eBay for the first time. And if I sound fired up about it, I am. I'm fired up about it because the principle of it really pisses me off. That's why. Okay. It doesn't matter that this didn't happen to me. I just can't stand that this kind of thing is happening to other sellers and people are losing money in this situation. I'm all about trying to help sellers make money, not lose money. And this does not have to be. In this situation, most sellers will send a buyer a PayPal invoice. This type of payment isn't allowed for the initial payment. But since, again, as I just told you, since this is a post-transaction resolution, it would be fine. So if anyone from eBay is watching this, contact Mel, because Mel is the person that sent out this message. But if you thought Mel was done, no. Mel's not done. Mel has more to say about this. Okay, so let's see what else Mel will say here. So Mel goes on to say, if we had submitted the refund from our end, then we'd have the option to submit an appeal. Well, you don't say, really? Where was that? Let's go back to that original message. Do you see that anywhere there? Just say that? Say anything about that? I don't see that. I don't see it here. I don't see it anywhere in that original message. And so if you're really trying to back sellers and help sellers, you put that information in the original message to help out sellers. You don't make them think and mislead them that if they don't send a refund or pressure them to send a refund, that their account is going to get affected. And then they send the refund because that's what you encourage them to do. And then after the fact, like a bait and switch, you tell them that, sorry, we can't submit an appeal because you voluntarily did it. And if you just let us do it, then we could submit an appeal. And that's what I am suggesting, by the way, is to not send out the refund. Given everything that we know here, let eBay submit the refund from their end, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to automatically close the case. They're going to favor for the buyer, and they're going to issue the refund. But then what you have to do is submit the appeal. So it will temporarily look bad for you, but then I have heard from other people, other sellers who have submitted the appeal, that then in that situation, the appeal will help them out. Your account's not affected. And then you can actually get your money back. Okay. But that's the process you have to go through, which is why I was telling you in the very beginning, don't issue that initial refund until you watch this video. So it says here, when you issue the refund from your end, the appeal option is removed. Why? Why is the appeal option removed when you try as a seller to do the right thing from a customer service perspective for your buyer? Why is the appeal option removed? That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. In fact, it makes so little sense that even the eBay rep herself has to admit, Mel has to admit, it's definitely not an ideal situation. Understandably. Yeah, it's not an ideal situation. That's right. It's not ideal. And don't act like, though, that this is something that, had to be like this, because again, this is the way eBay is choosing to resolve the situation. This is not something that is completely outside of their control, which is what it is being set up to make it look like. I normally don't get this fired up over stuff, but this has been bothering me for a while now, and seeing that this happened to other sellers again and how they're losing money on this is just totally ridiculous. So this needs to change. This policy needs to change. And if it does, I will update you on that either here or in my Facebook group. So follow me there. Follow me on Instagram at prime_time_treasure. Don't forget to check out the other videos that I have, over 800 videos here on the channel, all free, all designed to help out other sellers. I am going to have a live show tomorrow night, so come by, check it out. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on helping you make sales in 2021, and also helping you with social media. So lots of important information is going to go on there. So make sure you come on by, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this around so that other people know about this situation and don't lose money. I'll see you back at the next one, everyone. Take care. Buckle in with that bubble wrap.